Welcome to Building Your Leader Brand. Today on the show, Bob is speaking with Louise McDonnell.
My approach isn't at all salesy because you as the expert, you're giving. You're demonstrating your expertise. You're creating content that's not about you, it's about your ideal customer. And again, that's why it's so important to know what it is you're offering, because you need to get that content needs to appeal to a particular person.
My name is Bob Gentle, and every week I speak with incredible people who share their secrets to building, marketing, and monetizing their expertise, intentionally growing a unique personal brand and the mindset you need for your business to grow and thrive. If you're new to the show, then while you still have whatever device you have in your hand, hit subscribe, or if you're on Apple, that's the strange follow button in the top right-hand corner. That way you won't miss a single thing. So this week, I am delighted to speak to Louise McDonnell. We're going to be speaking about one of my favorite things today. But before I jump into that, Louise, today is the first time I've ever introduced the show, Building Your Leader Brand. It's brand new. Literally yesterday I did this. So thank you for being my very first.
Well, thank you for inviting me on, and I'm honored to be the first.
So for the listener, I should probably just take a second to explain the name change. The show used to be the Personal Brand Business Show. It has been the Personal Brand Business Show for a long time, but it's been bugging me that it wasn't really quite expressing what the show is about. This show is about building, marketing, and monetizing not just a personal brand, because a personal brand is something everybody really has, but the personal brand of a leader. It's not just being one of many, but the one among many. So this is really a repositioning, a niching in a little bit, and I'm really happy with it. So, Louise, for the listener who's meeting you for the first time, can you maybe just start by telling us a little bit about who you are, where you are, and what it is you actually do?
Thank you so much for inviting me again on the show, Bob. Really appreciate it. So my name, as you said, is Louise McDonnell. I'm based in the west of Ireland. I live in rural countryside. And from here, I have my social media company, which is called Sell on Social Media. And I have two divisions in my company. I have an agency where we offer a done-for-you service, and I have an academy where I offer training and coaching services. And my team are fully remote, so I absolutely love the fact that I can live and work in the part of the world which I absolutely love. And my clients span several time zones, and my team is fully remote as well. So, I love that opportunity that people have to be and live and be happy where they are and still really do what they really enjoy in their careers.
So for the listener, where I live is beautiful, but I've been where you live. There's very few places made me think about moving from Scotland, but where you are is on a very short list. All the other places that would tempt me are really sunny. I think it's your part of Ireland that really gives the Emerald Isle its name. It is gorgeous.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It is beautiful.
So today, I think I really want to lean into what it takes to sell on social media. I think this really is where the rubber meets the road when it comes to digital marketing. And I think so many people spin their wheels on social media. Mm. It's almost like they open a stall at a market and then they walk away. And I know it frustrates a lot of business owners that they spend all day on social media, but they never see the return on investment. Mm. And yet there seems to be this group of people, these mythical creatures that manage to sell on social media. So I want to really spend some time talking with you about how that works. What does it take to sell on social media? And I appreciate there's lots of different ways, and you'll have your own particular flavor for that. But what does a client look like for you, and how do you actually take them from this wasteland to a place where it's actually worth spending time on social media?
Bob, I generally encounter people who fall into two camps. Either they're looking at social media from the outside, looking in, going, I know I need to do that, but I don't know where to start, and I don't even have the confidence to be there in the first place. So those people are getting no return from social media because they're just not there. Then there is another cohort of people who are there on social media, very busy, very active, spending a lot of time, I came across somebody yesterday who's got 50,000 followers, but they're not monetizing. They're exactly what as you described a few minutes ago. They set up their stall, and what I say is they fall into the nurture trap, where they nurture, 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 and they never actually move the prospect forward into a conversion conversation. And actually there's nearly a thinking out there that social media is just for brand awareness. And I say absolutely not. And in fact, who do I work with? I work with businesses who have 300 and 400 followers, but they use social media to drive sales and leads because they follow a system which is intentional and which is set up specifically with the purpose of creating leads and from there generating sales. So that's why my mantra is like to sell on social media. Like, I think sometimes the media give social media a bad name because they like to feature people who've gone viral or people who've got 5 million followers or had a video that 20 million people saw. And to me, I'm like, that's just rubbish because, if you had one video that went viral, so what? That doesn't matter. It's the people who show up consistently week in, week out, reaching a few hundred or a few thousand people with an intentional system. They're the ones who are going to get the results.
So something I speak about a lot is that opportunity tends to come through one of 4 doors, and leads are essentially a form of opportunity. Mm-hmm. They either come through content and content marketing, they come through ads, they can come through our network and relationships, or they can come through active outbound. And within each of these, there's lots of different plays that we can make. But at the end of the day, people are people. It doesn't really matter where they are. They can come to us in lots of different ways. But most people struggle, even with the people that they know quite well and that they know need what they do. They struggle to have that moment where they pivot from being a friend or a contact or relationship into a sales conversation. So I guess this is really, I think what you're describing is methods for starting conversations and pivoting those into sales conversations. Mm-hmm. And I'm curious to know what that mechanically looks like. How do you work with people to A, facilitate them starting conversations with strangers at scale, and B, pivoting those into sales conversations?
Exactly. So one of the most important things, and again, if there's any takeaway that comes with this, one of the most important things that people should focus on is growing their email list. And there's just not enough businesses out there who appreciate the value of their email list. So your email list is made up of people who are either existing customers and are 6 to 7 times more likely to repeat their business with you in the future or recommend you to somebody else. Or it's made up of people who are so interested in what you're doing that they have in some way, subscribed to your email list. They have said, I want to hear more information from this particular person about this particular topic. So again, for me, what's really, really important is using social media, not on its own, but just using it to grow your email list. So again, I always say that I help people build customized social sales funnels because everybody is at a different stage of brand awareness. Everybody's selling a different particular product or service. There may be, again, you have to think, are there sensitivities with that service? Is it something that's private and that people don't want to publicly be associated with? Or is it something that they're happy to share with their friends and family? There's a different price point. Is it $200 or is it $2,000? Again, how you market, your funnel is going to be different depending on what you're selling. So all of these things will feed into what kind of mechanism that you would use in order to use your social media, whether that's organically or through paid means, to reach people and to get them onto your email list and to get nurturing and have conversations. So there's very many things you can do. If you're starting out and you have a very low level of brand awareness, you might start off, like, if think of it like this, Bob. So I could have the best 1-hour video in the world that is the best content ever. But if you don't know who I am and even if I'm going to give you that video for free, you're going to say, well, I don't know who she is. I'm not going to invest an hour of my time watching that. Okay, it's the same with, like, if I said to you, here's my book. Here, read my whole book. It's for yours. And you might go, don't know who she is. I don't have time to read her book because I don't know if it's worth giving up my time to read her book. Whereas if and you didn't know who I was, and I said, here's a 3-page summary or a cheat sheet or a 1-pager or something easy, but it's very useful. So that's where you should start off if you're starting off with low level of brand awareness, and use that to start growing your email list. And when you put out a lead magnet like that, so again, some of the mistakes people tend to make is that they go for a topic that's going to get them like lots of downloads, but it might not attract the people who are eventually going to be the customers. So the lead magnet, it needs to be a magnet because it needs to attract people who are eventually going to potentially be your customers. So there's lots of different lead. You could have like something like that as a lead magnet and then nurture them in through an email sequence. Again, if you're selling something that is maybe $3,000 to $5,000, people need to really get to know and like you. So that's maybe when you do like a 3-day challenge, a 5-day challenge, and you get in front of somebody and you give them something of real value, and then you nurture them into a conversation with you. So for me, it's about having campaigns, events, that are planned, that are intentional, and even I was speaking to somebody today, and she's very far down the road in terms of doing a launch, but like she just wasn't giving enough thought into the lead magnet and the topic of what she was going to do in order to sell. It's like, if you don't have it right, you're not going to attract the right people, and you're not going to get them to take the action you want them to take.
I really like that. I think there is a spectrum from bro marketer through to very passive business who just waits for people to come and call them up and say, hey, I've surprise, I need what you do. Really? There's a spectrum there. And honestly, I was probably expecting a little bit more about direct messaging and things like that, because when people think about social selling, they're often thinking about direct outreach and sort of knocking on doors, essentially. What's
Hi,
interesting?
how are you? Would you like to do business with me? Hi, you've never met me before. Would you like da-da-da?
Well, the thing is, it does work to an extent. You do get these white elephants that say, you know what? Yeah, I need what you want, what you're selling today. But they are the outliers, and that's not, from my perspective, a sustainable way to build a personal brand. Because as you're essentially hassling people, that's all reflecting on you. All of those people have an impression of you now. You've done nothing to build like, know, and trust.
Exactly.
And something I say to clients all the time is, if you want value from people, you need to become valuable to them. And you've really described that very nicely.
And that's why social media, I think that's why people don't fully get the benefit of it, is that you get the opportunity to get in front of people. And that's why the viral posts don't matter, because you think of something that popped up in your newsfeed yesterday, that you came across that company for the first time, and maybe there was a few million views on something, and you watched it. Like in 2 days' time, you're not even going to remember who they were. Whereas if the people that you reach every week, or that you reach weekly or regularly on social media, and they get to know, like, trust you, they're your warmest prospects. The people then, if you're running an ad and you may be running an ad for, like if you said, here's an ad, come follow me, they were like, whereas if you said, here, come an ad and come along to my free webinar, they may just go check you out, start following you. They may not register for the webinar, but you're on there. Now all of a sudden you're on the radar. And then they may register for the webinar the next time, but not show up. But they're on your email list. And then I look at people who sign up to my programs, and I just love looking at data. I don't know about you, I love it. First thing I'll do is, when did they join my list? How many tags have they got? Where do they discover me? And what you'll find is that generally people, you will have an outlier who'll find you for the first time and go, oh, I need that right now, I'll buy. But generally people are on your list, and depending on what the price point is, they're on your list a while. And so when you're running your launch, you may be spending money on ads, and those people might not buy from you this time, but they're now in your funnel. They're now in the nurturing phase. And, they'll be your future prospects, your future sales.
There was a study done, I can't remember where it was, but they were looking at within the broad spectrum of all of the things that happen online, where do people actually make a decision to buy something? And we think, they react to an ad or it's a social media post, but actually 70% of buying decisions happened in the inbox. So building that relationship with somebody in the inbox is fundamentally important if you want to build a business. But there is another aspect to this, which is a lot of people, when they want to try and sell, they leave it so long that by the time they actually pull their finger out and start selling, they need the win today.
Oh, yeah.
When actually, it's this whole thing of when's the best time to plant a tree? Well, 25 years ago, but what's the next best time? It's now. I know two people whose business is sales training, pure and simple. And they both say exactly the same thing, that any lull or lack of sales today can be directly traced back to a lack of activity 90 days ago.
Yes.
And I'm working with clients right now who want to start building a sales pipeline. And it's very difficult to tell them that the activity that you engage in today is unlikely to reap rewards today. But if you persist with it and you're consistent with it, in 90 days, you should see a different business. What I like about what you describe is it's very sustainable. Yes, you can use it with a big fanfare for launches, but you can also use it as a drip feed quite sustainably. I'm running a Facebook ad at the moment. I'm spending £2 a day. It generates leads every single day. Do those leads all turn into clients? No, they don't. And you'll like this. So I'll tell the listener exactly what I'm doing at the moment. There may be listeners who've been on the receiving end of it. Now you know how it works. I spend £2 a day on a Facebook ad. It drives people towards the personal brand business roadmap, which they can download completely for free, as you've said. When they download it, yes, they get on my email list, but I have an automation set up to push them into my CRM so I can go and see, who are these people? And then if I can identify them, I'll connect with them on LinkedIn. So natespam@gmail.com. Thanks. I don't know who you are, but there's lots of people I do. And I think working with somebody like you to set that up is probably the most valuable money that you can spend, because setting something like that up today is a system. And in sales, we need sales systems, not sales flurries or sales sprints. We need a system that we can set up and continue to invest in over time, because time in sales is one of the most important things. It's one of the things people most often underestimate. Sorry, I had a little bit of a ramble,
That's
but
okay.
I'm interested to hear from you, because I think ads are something that a lot of people underestimate. They think they need to spend a lot of money on ads. And if you're hiring an ad agency, yes, they'll tell you you need to spend a lot of money. But from your perspective, what is a kind of foundational ad strategy? What does that look like?
And actually, before I answer that question, I think what's really important for the listener to understand when it comes to running paid promotions is that I always say that there's three benefits from using paid promotions or from running a campaign on social media, whether that be paid and organic, right? You're going to need paid. You can't depend on organic. You can't cross your fingers and hope that the algorithm will show you. So so you have to just accept it. You have to spend money, but you don't have to spend a huge amount of money. You just have to make sure that you're making more money than you're spending, right? So the three benefits of using paid ads. First of all, your example there, you're spending £2 a day and you're driving people towards a lead magnet and they're coming onto your list. So when you're quantifying the results of that campaign, you'll be looking at how much did I spend, how many leads did I generate, how many of those leads, I'm sure you have them tagged so you can identify the ones that come through the ad, how many of those later go on, how many of those later go on to sign up to something or have a call or eventually give me money, right, become a customer. And so that's how you'll be able to quantify the value of that campaign. Look, that's the direct benefit. So there is always a direct benefit of a campaign. Then there's the indirect benefit. And it's the indirect benefit that I think is sometimes more powerful. And it's something that people do not value, or they just think it happens, by coincidence. There are no coincidences. So let's say that I always find when I'm running a campaign like that for, let's say, whatever lead magnet, all of a sudden I'll get 2 or 3 calls from my agency. I'll get somebody coming in who wants me to do a training course or speak at an event. So all those indirect, because you have got in front of someone who does not necessarily want that lead magnet or does not necessarily want that product or service that you're talking about in that ad, but they want something else. And so those are the indirect benefits. And every time you run a campaign or do promotions in some shape or form, that happens. And sometimes it might be somebody invites you to be on a podcast or on a stage, and it's what the sales that you get from that. So that's the indirect. So that's the direct benefit, the indirect benefit. And then I say there's the future benefit. So there's the people that didn't take the action that you wanted them to take, but they noticed you, and they come and they follow you. And they're the people that are they are your future prospects. So running paid promotions, again, I'm not saying that every paid promotion, you have to run the right one. There's 13 different types of ads you can run on the Meta platform. And you have to be running the right ad. And your messaging needs to be persuasive. So it needs to, you can run really crap ads, really poor quality ads, messaging not on point, not, again, just never going to attract the right person. So again, you have to have persuasive messaging, the right media, the right timing, the right budget. And that, to answer your question, when it comes to running paid promotions, you need to look at things like when you are running your promotion, what's your click-through rate? If the click-through rate on your ad is anything less than 2%, 1 to 2% is average. If it's like much lower than that, then it could be your ad creative is not good enough. It means that people aren't noticing it in the newsfeed. It could be your headline isn't strong enough. If it's a case, like I have a client at the moment, we're running an ad for him, and he has a click-through rate of 9.5% on the ad. And I'm like, we are killing it. It's fantastic. That's a really good ad. But what is it? It's a photograph of the guy sitting at his desk because he's selling a personalized service, and the photo just embodies what he's selling. Okay, so that got a click-through rate of 9.5%. If you found you had a click-through rate of 9.5% and you were driving people, let's say, toward, in your example, to a landing page where they could download a lead magnet, and if you found that you had a conversion rate of 5% on that, that would mean that out of the campaign, it's not the ad that's not working, it's your landing page. So again, like, you have to make sure that you're optimizing every step of the funnel. So when somebody sees your ad, do they click on it? When they click on it, what's the next action? Do they click through to the landing page? Do they sign up? If they got there and they didn't sign up, what do you need to fix at that stage of the funnel? Then when they sign up, what's the next stage? They go into your list. What's the next action you want them to take? And you follow all those stages of the funnel through so that you're optimizing, you're getting rid of any leaks. That means that if you're spending money to get someone into that funnel, that you're maximizing your chances of getting them to take the action that you want them to take, which is ultimately to sign up to something.
As you were speaking, I checked. I'm at 2.6.
Woohoo!
But I thought my ad was a bit rubbish and I was going to improve it. I still am going to improve it. But that's good to know. See, it pays to speak to an expert. That's why you start podcasts, people. What's interesting listening to you there is it's got potential to be quite overwhelming for people. And I think something I encourage people to think about is, if you can afford to hire an expert, by all means hire an expert. But even a bad ad is going to be better than no ad a lot of the time, because you're learning. And Facebook ads in basic form are a life skill, people, if you run a business. And I would say, before you ever hire anybody, at least try and do it once yourself, because you'll be better informed when you actually come to hire someone to help. I think, as you were talking about the secondary benefits to running an ad that aren't directly tied to your lead, I think a lot of people don't appreciate the impact that I mentioned. These 4 doors of opportunity. There's the content, the ads, the network, and the active outbound.
Brilliant.
All of these doors sit in isolation, if you like, but they also compound together. And if somebody enters your world through an ad, if they enter your theater, so to speak, they join your audience, they don't buy anything. They're in your audience now. They're going to consume your content if you're creating content. They're going to become part of your network if you're engaging with them online. And you can now actively go out and try and sell to them. You don't have to wait for them to come and buy from you if you've identified who these people are. And all of these things work together. So I think ads are great, but they don't have to necessarily generate leads in and of themselves. They're generating relationships. They're positioning you in the market, and all of these things, they create this perfect storm where you will find it easier to be in business, I think.
Yeah, I think as well, and here's the good news for the people who are maybe in that nurturing trap, the people who have been on social media and they're growing their following and they're very active and they are doing good things, is that when they create what I call my customized social sales funnel, they're going to get the first bunch of leads organically because they have lots and lots and lots of warm prospects that they just haven't engaged with, or they just haven't brought them through. And to have, they've never, like, I know for a fact that I could go on to several, experts' social media accounts and look at what they do and go, I still don't know how I can do business with them. I still don't know, are they selling group coaching, individual coaching? Are they selling a training course or a consultancy? I don't know. And so if you're there and you're interacting with people on a weekly basis on social media, but it's not obvious how to do business with you, people will just consume your content and they will take your advice and they'll think you're fantastic. Oh my God, Bob, you're fantastic. Thank you so much. But if you have never proposed to them, this is what I do. Do you want to have a chat with me? Then unless that they have a burning desire, sometimes you can warm somebody up and then they go off and they do business with somebody else. So
I've had that. What you described there, I think, is actually really important. I've been guilty of that, probably still am guilty of that to an extent. But if people can't walk into your shop and say, that's the one I want, they're not going to spend money. And a lot of people, especially consultants and coaches, it is like that. I'm a fabulous coach. I'm a fabulous consultant. Well, where do I actually hire you? What's in the box? What's in the box, Bob? Because if I don't know what's in the box, I'm not going to buy it. People don't like not knowing what's in the box. And if it's not clearly labeled, they're not going to buy it. I think this kind of leads to what I was going to ask you about next, which is offers. Offer is a very simple word, but it actually contains an awful lot. You're running virtual events. Then we have other people who will have just buy off the shelf products. What I love about events is it gives you the opportunity to do the old build the rapport, build the like, know, and trust, build people up into a heightened state and say, now this is what you can buy. A lot of people kind of shy away from that, hoping people will just come and pick them. But it doesn't work like that. So what's the sort of range of suggestions or strategies that you turned to when you're trying to help people move from audience to actually, do you want to buy it, Bob?
Well, first of all, you have to be very clear what your offer is. And let's just come back to what you've said. And I think there's so many businesses out there who are not clear. They're not clear on what their offer is. So, what is the price point? And actually, another thing about price point is that a lot of the time people haven't factored in to their offer, the pricing, their marketing costs. So if you're going to run a campaign, if you're going to spend some money on it, like, you have to make sure that you've built that into your price. Other than that, it's going to be hard to find the money for marketing. So I think the starting point is to be really clear on your offer and what it is that it is and what the price point is and what your upsell is and what your downsell is. Because like that, if you haven't even defined that clearly, it's very hard to do a lead magnet or to do a webinar, which is going to bring people directly to that offer. So being clear on that offer, on the problem that you're solving, on the person who's who's the ideal client for that offer, that, if you don't know that, your messaging is not ever going to be persuasive enough, because it's just going to be too vague at times. So your offer, to your messaging, to your positioning, to your social media content, which has to 3-4 posts a week, every week, to your ads, to your lead magnet, to your event, to the experience. What do you want somebody to feel if they come to an event? What do you want them to believe? To your email, your email sequences. And again, if you're not clear on that offer, it's the offer. If you're not clear on that offer, then everything else will be weak.
What's your approach or your attitude to people when they perhaps push back and say, I don't want to be salesy all the time. I don't want to be constantly making offers and trying to sell people things and pushing products on people?
In fact, my approach isn't at all salesy, because you as the expert, you're giving, you're demonstrating your expertise. You're creating content that's not about you; it's about your ideal customer. And again, that's why it's so important to know what it is you're offering, because you need to get that content needs to appeal to a particular person. And then again, if you're inviting somebody in for a webinar or a 3-day challenge or whatever that may be, they're getting something. I know people who come to my events, they get great value. They come away and they get great insight. They get great, so I've given them that. And so you're only salesy at the very end when you say, so I'm starting a program. I've 3 places left. Are you interested?
So of all the spectrum of sales events, if you like, we've got just a basic webinar, social, what do you call it? A 3-day style challenge, virtual summits. They all take different amounts of work. And I sense that there's a sweet spot somewhere. A virtual summit looks like a lot of work. It's a big fanfare of an event. It's probably a good idea, very, very worthwhile, but it's not something you can do very often. Whereas webinars are so ho-hum that unless you're talking about something people have never heard of before, it's unlikely you're going to get an awful lot of attendance. For your money, what's the best way to do some kind of sales event?
Webinars still work. I think the reason sometimes, I've heard people say, I tried a webinar, it didn't work. And I look at the title of the webinar, it's not strong enough. The messaging isn't persuasive enough. The promise of what they're offering isn't relevant enough. So if you're persuasive enough, if you're on point, and again, if it all goes back to the definition of the offer, what you're leading people towards. Webinars can be very successful. Challenges can be very successful. Even sometimes I have done workshops, a free workshop, something that's a bit more intimate, limited to 15 people. That can work very well as well. Or you can even do something like a quiz. And then if you want the interpretation of the results, you can book a call. So all of these things are all lead magnets. But that you just need to give value. But at the same time, you can't answer all the questions because it's not a training event. So if somebody comes into a 1-hour webinar and you treat it as a training event, then they'll go away and they'll go, oh, I don't need you now. So there's actually, you have to have there's a formula that you show them the what, but not the how.
Yeah.
Okay. So you give them a process that they need to follow, but they still need you to understand all the intricacies within that process. But still you're giving value, so if somebody does want to come and understand the process and go away and spend years trying to figure it out themselves, they can,
I think that's a really good way of looking at it. I think you can give away the information because people will pay for the implementation. And I think I don't necessarily want clients that just want information. I want clients that need help with the implementation. So they almost self-select at that point. I agree. I think with webinars, it's really how you sell the webinar that's going to do it. If you don't look excited about it, why should they? So it needs to be well positioned, it needs to look glamorous and exciting. If you can pull that off, then it's absolutely going to work. I think there's another aspect to this, which I was lucky enough to be on a call with Amy Porterfield once. And I asked her, what's the difference between people who make webinars work and people who don't? She said, most people don't understand that a webinar, it can work. But the more often you do it, the more people see you as a leader in that thing. And so they start coming to your webinars. Whereas if you just do a webinar once, I think that's a bit of a pop-up event. It's just for marketing. But people buy from experts. And if you're consistently seen to be teaching that thing, people will start buying from you. Again, time is an important factor to this. But that's why people who sell a lot do tend to run a lot of webinars.
Because they're great sales events, and if you're going to run a webinar, you have to think, well, I'm going to use my organic social media following. I'm going to encourage them to come. I'm going to have paid ads. I'm going to maybe work with joint venture partners. I'm going to use my existing list of people who are on the list who haven't bought from me before. If I'm speaking at an event, I'm going to mention it. If I'm on a podcast, if I'm, wherever I am. So it all gets pushed into this one funnel. And the amount of times, I have my own podcast, Bob, and the amount of times that I'll have an expert on and I'm like, have you got a free gift? No.
Yeah. I know, it's all the time. But business is all about relationships and visibility. You can't eat visibility, sadly. If people have taken the time to spend any attention on you, then it does make absolute sense to give them a way to stay in touch. And the lead magnet is it. Speaking of lead magnets, you have a very flamboyant lead magnet in a book. Tell me about your book.
So I bring out an annual social media planner and guide. So this is the 2024 one. So towards the end of this year, in November, the end of November, we bring out the 2025 one. So what this is I use it every single day, you can see. But the first section of the book is a guide on how to get clear on your message, how to write persuasive content, like how to literally create a social media plan. There is then a whole section in the book with special dates. And again, so if we look at let me pick out a date. I'm just going to say the 15th of October is World Students Day and the 16th is World Food Day. Now you can Google all those. They're all out now on Google. But this is a handy place where they're all in the one place. And if you're sitting down and you're planning your content and you're looking for something strategic to talk about, so not every day is going to be relevant to you. But there, you can it can just give you inspiration to go, oh, hang on a second, International Gin and Tonic Day. I'm a bar, or let's show all the gins we have and let's put out that content on that day, or National Nut Day. So I have a client and she helps people with allergies. So again, we'll do a whole thing around that, So it just means that you're putting out content on the day that maybe a lot of radio stations in particular, they all follow these and they potentially are looking for content on that day as well.
Yeah.
So you can get it, you can get it out there. So it helps you show up day in, day out, week in, week out on your socials. And then anyone who buys the planner, there's a QR code where they can download free resources. So all the special days, I have given them a planning calendar with all the special days integrated into it. It's a wonderful tool. We use it all the time. So people, they get that for free. They get a few other free resources. They get a free training. I don't even remember at this stage now, but there's $377 worth of free resources there. And so anyone who buys the planner, they can tap in and they can get that as well. So that would be one of my lead magnets that I use. So I bring that out every year.
Well, I will be heading over to Amazon shortly. It looks really handy. And where can people find out more about your podcast?
So my podcast is called The Social Media Takeaway. So you'll find it on all the leading podcast platforms. So you'll find it there. We have conversations generally about social media. Sometimes we stray off topic. I'd be good like that. It's generally good sound advice for people that are in business. And again, no more than yourself, it's very conversational. I like to talk to people and let the conversation flow.
And if people want to find out more about you and who you are and where you are and what you do, how can they do that? What's the best place to hang out with you online?
Yeah, so if you're on LinkedIn, just look for me under Louise McDonnell. Be very happy to connect. If you're on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, you'll find me under Sell on Social M. My website is sellonsocial.media.
Awesome. And before I let you go, what's one thing you do now you wish you'd started 5 years ago?
I definitely think there is growing your email list with relevant people is the most important thing you can do. I know that when I look at the data following any of my launches, the true value is the people that come onto your list and that eventually come and buy from you. And here's a little bit of nugget as well. If somebody comes onto your list and then they unsubscribe, that's fine. Let them off. But if somebody who knows, oh, I might need her, they won't unsubscribe. So that would be my advice.
I think it's a really good answer. It's probably I would never say it's the best answer, but it's the best answer. When people say email list, it's almost always the best answer.
Yeah, and the amount of people, Bob, whether they're selling services or products that don't even email, they go, I don't want to be annoying people. Email them. The people who email make more money. End of.
Well, Louise McDonnell, I am very grateful for your time. We've had a challenging day today getting this interview going. People, trust me, you don't want to know, but thank you for your patience.
No problem.
That does bring us to the end of another episode. Thank you at home for listening. And if you did enjoy the show, I would gently encourage you to leave 5-star reviews. That's 5, wherever you listen to podcasts, and to share the show with just one person. And if you did enjoy the show, you will love the Personal Brand Business Roadmap. It's 100% free as a gift from me, 50 pages of everything you need to start, scale, or fix your expert business. Just click the link in the show notes or visit amplifyme.agency/roadmap. Thanks again, Louise. And for you at home, see you all next time. Bye-bye.